We're absolutely committed to meeting our responsibilities under the Disability Discrimination Act. So Post Office Limited as a business absolutely must meet those requirements. We've assessed and audited our branch network to understand the physical needs. For example, put low-level counters that will shortly be in all of our directly managed branches right across the country. And we've also undertaken a training programme for all people so they understand not just their obligations, but how they can provide service to all of our customers.
There's nothing to be afraid of. They're just normal people. They just might need a little bit more help.
You're in charge. They are just another customer.
Well, my advice to counter clerks is firstly to adjust to the needs of your customer. Maintain a positive attitude in dealing with them.
Just think very clearly sometimes about how you can best help them and what would be most useful. Put yourself in their position.
For example, somebody with a hearing impediment, speak slowly, speak clearly, make sure they understand what it is that you've said, and maintain a positive attitude throughout.
I think you just adjust. If someone's deaf, then you have to look them directly in the face so they can lip read. Sometimes, in my experience, you've had to write down on a piece of paper. Quite a few customers like you to do that. The wheelchair people come in, you just have to sort of go forward a bit more and you have to lean over so they can actually get hold of the money or whatever transaction they're doing.
Thank you. Thanks very much indeed.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
It's not always obvious that a person has a disability. You have to be fairly shrewd and astute when you're dealing with a customer. Look at their body language, watch their hands, watch their eyes, see if they have mobility problems, try and ascertain if they have a hearing problem. Hello there, how can I help you?
I'd like to send this to Hong Kong, please.
To Hong Kong. What is it, please?
It's a book.
A book. One moment. Is it a valuable book?
No.
That's £1.71 airmail.
But the most irritating thing of all is when you go into the post office and you go up to the counter and there's total silence. You know, there's no one there, you think.
When you serve a disabled person, you don't panic, you just deal with them.
It's only common courtesy, really, just to say hello, can I help you, good morning, good afternoon. Simple courtesies, that's all it takes.
When you're dealing with blind people, you speak loud and clear, say who you are, and then you just ask them what help they want. If they want you to stick the stamps on, you have to sort all that side of it out as well for them.
I try to be a fairly independent person, you know, as someone with a visual impairment. But, you know, there are times when you get very disorientated. I have to say, when you go into a post office, in the giving of change, for example, you know, you just hear it clattering down and start pawing around, and you feel very embarrassed.
When I realise that the customer does have a disability, I try to ask questions, I try to probe to make the transaction as smooth and as easy as possible. You have to actually ask the customer, is it urgent, is it valuable? You want to give the customer the correct product.
Recently I served a blind person that came in. I had to write all the addresses on the envelopes for him, put the stamps on, reassured him what I'd done, and then sent the letters off.
If you find that you haven't understood what the customer has said or requires, don't be afraid to ask again. Get the question right and you'll get the right product.
I'd like to send this to Hong Kong, please.
So which country?
To Hong Kong.
Hong Kong. One moment, please.
They could ask me to repeat myself, and I don't mind doing that again and again and again, because you're working on a more normal level.
They're looking for your help and you help them. Remember that. Sometimes you can offer help and it's rejected. Don't be offended by that. You've made the right move. If your help is not required, the customer will let you know, but the important thing is to make the first move to offer help.
If it's very busy and you are under pressure, then I suppose your tendency would be to go quick with people, but you've got to sit back, think about it and take your time with them, not worry about who's in the queue, because who you're dealing with is the one in front of you who's the most important person. It's the customer, isn't it? So you've got to deal with them.
Often it is difficult because the transaction will be slower, therefore you must not rush. It's really important that you take your time, you serve the customer once and you get it right. Give them time while you're serving them.
I'm aware that I am disabled. I'm aware that I'm not that easy to understand. It's nothing new to me. So I like people just to be relaxed. And the minute people get worried, that affects the way you treat anyone.
If there's a large queue and you feel under pressure, that's the very time that you should actually slow down. Do the transaction properly. Give this person time.
A counter clerk can be in breach of the Act, for example, if they refuse to serve somebody because of their disability or ask them to wait at one side, then that would be a clear breach.
In some shops they have tried to avoid serving me because of my deafness. It would be nice if they could have some understanding, some patience and a good attitude to serving me.
Well, ultimately the buck stops with David Mills, our Chief Executive. But actually, I think in a practical sense, the buck stops with each one of us. Each one of us wants to be treated as an individual and receive excellent service, and that's our obligation.
People's reaction when you meet them for the first time can be either one extreme to the other. They can be ignore the fact that you're there and treat you as part of the furniture, or in other respects they can be totally out of all proportion and sort of pushing other people out of the way and move out of the way, wheelchair coming through and that sort of thing. And really they should, I don't know, treat us exactly the same way as they would expect to be treated themselves.
Often, when I go into a shop and tell them I'm deaf, they automatically shout at me. And I feel really uncomfortable because the other customers are starting to look at me. It might help other people with minimal hearing loss who can hear a bit. But for me, because I'm profoundly deaf, it's no good. And they also try to speak very slowly, and they over-exaggerate their mouth movements, and it makes it even worse. It makes no sense.
You just have to sit there and help them as much as you can without sometimes actually showing that you're helping them, and then they're not offended at all then.
I've had experience where people assume I'm stupid just because I'm sat in a chair, but I go shopping just the same as everybody else. I buy the same stuff, I go to virtually the same shops, but I'll tend to go back to the more favourable places if they're nicer to me and you get better service, just the same as everybody else.
I think my final message for counter clerks is, at the end of the day, our disabled customers are just another customer. They're there for us to provide excellent service to and sell to. And if we do that, then we will satisfy their needs.